The jungle was alive with strange sounds, heavy mist curling through the trees, and shadows that moved like living things. The human, Ethan, had never felt such danger wrap around him before. Every step he took sank into the wet earth, and every rustle of leaves made him turn his head sharply. He knew he was not welcome here. The alien world was not his, but somehow he had become part of its darkest secret. When the first warship descended months ago, he was only a wanderer. He had no reason to fight anyone. But the aliens on this planet saw humans as nothing more than trouble. To them, humans were reckless, lustful, and unable to control themselves. Ethan had been caught in the middle of the war between clans, and worse, in the middle of one alien girl's wrath. Her name was Celira, and her skin glowed blue beneath the jungle light. Her eyes burned like fire in the dark, sharp and piercing, making Ethan feel small, though he was a strong man. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Beautiful, fierce, and proud, she had treated him at first like an enemy intruder. But then something happened that no one had expected. The war between their species forced them together one night when the jungle burned and predators hunted both of them. Side by side, they had fought back against the beasts that tried to drag them into the river. That night, in fear, in survival, and in the strange heat of blood and fire, something more than fighting had happened between them. Ethan had tried to forget it. Celira had sworn never to speak of it, but now, she knew. Ethan's chest heaved as he ran through the thick vines, his heart thundering in his ears. Behind him, he could hear her voice, sharp and filled with fury. "You lustful pig!" She shouted, her words cutting through the jungle air. "You dare touch me, and now I carry your child." Her words echoed in his mind, heavier than the pounding of his feet on the earth. He didn't know what to say, what to think. He hadn't meant for this to happen. He had never even believed such a thing was possible between them. A human and an alien? It had seemed impossible, yet here it was, chasing him through the wilderness like a curse. The branches scraped against his bare arms. Sweat rolled down his face, and every breath came ragged. He glanced back and saw her figure moving fast, her body swift and powerful, glowing like a hunter in the dim green light. She was young, but her strength was terrifying. She wasn't just chasing him to catch him, she wanted him to face what he had done. The jungle seemed endless, but he had nowhere to go. He could not fight her. He could not outrun her forever. Still, his instincts forced him to push forward, to cling to the faint hope that he could hide or escape. Yet deep inside, he knew the truth. There was no escape from her. Celira's feet barely touched the ground, as she leapt over roots and ducked under branches. Her breath was steady, her movements like a predator closing in. She had no intention of letting him slip away. The child inside her was proof of something far larger than either of them. It was not only about shame or anger, it was about survival, bloodlines, and power. The clans would tear her apart if they discovered the truth. She knew it. He knew it. And yet, she wanted him to face it with her. The jungle opened into a small clearing, sunlight striking down in sharp beams. Ethan stumbled into it, his chest burning, his legs trembling. For a moment, he thought he had gained a little distance, but then he heard the crunch of leaves and saw her emerge from the shadows. Her face was fierce, but her beauty struck him all the same. Her hair fell wild around her glowing shoulders, and her eyes locked onto him with fire that burned hotter than the suns above. "You will not run from this," she cried, her voice trembling with rage and something more, something hidden. "You will not leave me to suffer alone." Ethan's hands tightened into fists, though he felt powerless. He was a soldier of no army, a wanderer with no cause. Yet now he was trapped in a war he had never chosen, not of guns and blades, but of life itself. He wanted to speak, to explain, to beg her to stop chasing him. But his throat tightened, and no words came. All he could see was the fury in her eyes and the truth in her voice. The jungle around them was silent now, as though even the beasts and the wind were holding their breath. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. Ethan's chest still burned as he faced Celira in the clearing. The silence between them felt heavier than the humid air. Her eyes, sharp and glowing, held him in place like chains. He had run as far as he could, but she had followed every step. Now there was no escape. Celira. His voice cracked, hoarse from running, fear, and shame. I didn't mean for this. Didn't mean. Her words cut through him like a blade. You touched me when I was weak, when the world burned around us. You made me forget my pride, my honor. And now I carry proof of it inside me. She pressed her hand against her stomach, her chest rising and falling with every angry breath. Ethan stepped back, shaking his head. It wasn't like that. You know it wasn't. We both... Silence. She snapped. Her voice carried through the trees, sending a flock of strange feathered creatures scattering into the sky. I will not hear excuses from you. My clan would kill me if they knew, and you. You would be hunted like an animal until your bones rotted in this jungle. Her words were true, and Ethan knew it. The jungle was cruel enough. If the alien clans learned of this child, neither of them would live to see another sunrise. Still, he couldn't stop staring at her beauty, her fury. The way her glowing skin seemed almost unreal in the shafts of light. Celira stepped closer, and he fought the urge to run again. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but his legs felt heavy, pinned by the weight of her gaze. You will not abandon me, she said, her voice lower now but even more dangerous. Do you hear me, human? This is not only your burden. It is mine too. And if you run, I will drag you back. Ethan swallowed hard, his chest still heaving. What do you want from me? Her eyes narrowed, flames of rage and something unspoken swirling inside them. I want you to face what you've done. I want you to take responsibility. Do not think you can vanish into the trees while I am left to carry the shame. For a moment, Ethan almost shouted back. Almost told her that he had no clan, no people, no honor left to stain. But he held his tongue. The truth was worse, he was alone, a man with nothing but his survival. Yet now, Celira's words struck deep. This was more than survival. It was life itself. He took a step forward, his voice quieter. Celira, I didn't force you. That night, you held me too. We thought we were going to die. Maybe it was madness, maybe it was need. But I never wanted to hurt you. Her jaw tightened, her hands curled into fists. For the first time, she did not shout. Instead, her eyes softened just slightly, a flicker of memory passing through them. She remembered that night too, the heat, the fear, the fire around them, and the strange bond neither of them had spoken of since. But her pride would not let her admit it. You are still guilty, she whispered, her voice shaking. Because now there is no turning back. Before Ethan could answer, a roar split the air. Both of them turned sharply as the trees shook. From the shadows emerged one of the great jungle beasts, massive, with scales like armor and teeth dripping with venom. Its eyes glowed yellow, fixed on the two figures in the clearing. Celira stepped in front of Ethan without hesitation, her body low, ready to strike. Stay behind me, she hissed. For a moment, Ethan almost laughed at the madness of it all. She had chased him for miles, cursed him, sworn to drag him back, and now she was protecting him. But there was no time to think. The beast lunged, its claws tearing at the earth. Ethan grabbed a broken branch, thick and sharp at one end. Celira's hands glowed as strange energy surged through her veins, lighting her skin in patterns of blue fire. Together they moved. The beast snapped its jaws, nearly crushing Ethan's arm, but he shoved the branch into its mouth. Celira leapt forward, her energy striking its head with a flash of light that made the jungle trees tremble. The monster roared in pain, its body twisting wildly before crashing into the ground. Breathing hard, Ethan stumbled back, his chest burning again. Celira stood over the fallen beast, her body glowing, her eyes alive with fire. For a moment, she looked like a goddess of the jungle, untouchable and furious. When the beast lay still, silence returned. Salira turned slowly toward him, her hair falling wild around her face. Her chest rose and fell as she caught her breath, and her eyes locked onto his once more. "You see?" she said, her voice steady now, calm but deadly serious. "We cannot escape this. We are bound by blood, by survival, and now by the child inside me." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to deny it, to argue, to run again. But deep inside, he knew she was right. The jungle itself seemed to watch them, waiting to see what they would choose. And Ethan knew one thing for certain: his life would never be his own again. Ethan stood frozen, his breath ragged as Salira's words echoed inside him. The jungle around them seemed too still, as if even the trees were waiting for his answer. She had declared it without hesitation. They were bound. He didn't want to believe it, but her eyes told him the truth. Salira took a slow step toward him. Her anger had not faded, but something else lived in her gaze now, something deeper. "Do you understand, human? This child is not only mine. It is yours. You cannot turn away." Ethan clenched his fists. He had lived his whole life as a wanderer, never tied to anyone, never held down by duty. But now, this alien girl stood before him, demanding something he wasn't sure he could give. Still, he couldn't deny what she had said. "I don't know how this is even possible," he muttered, shaking his head. "A human. And you. It shouldn't happen." Salira's expression hardened. "And yet, it has. Do you think I would lie? My body is not mistaken. I feel it. Life grows within me, and it carries your blood." Her words struck him like a blade. He felt his chest tighten. "If your clan finds out, they will kill me," she finished for him. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes flickered with something that looked like fear. "And you will not live either. They will hunt you until you are nothing but a story whispered in the dark." Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, but the truth was too clear. They were trapped together, and the world would not forgive them. Before he could speak again, the jungle stirred with movement. Heavy footsteps, not of a beast, but of soldiers. Salira's head snapped toward the sound, her body tensing. Ethan heard it too, the rhythmic beat of armored feet pressing into the ground. "Scouts," she hissed. "My clan." Ethan's heart jumped. "They're looking for you?" Salira's lips pressed into a thin line. "They know something is wrong. If they find us together," she didn't finish. She didn't need to. The shadows of tall figures began to move through the trees. Alien warriors, their armor glowing faintly with runes, carried spears that shimmered with energy. Their faces were stern, their eyes scanning the jungle for prey. Salira grabbed Ethan's wrist suddenly. Her grip was strong, almost painful. "Follow me, now." He hesitated. Just moments ago, she had chased him with fury. Now she was pulling him along as if his life depended on her. And maybe it did. They slipped into the thick undergrowth, moving fast but silent. Ethan's chest burned with every step, his muscles screaming from the earlier chase. Salira, despite her condition, moved like a shadow, her body blending with the blue glow of the plants. They crouched behind a wall of vines as the patrol drew closer. Ethan's heart pounded so loudly he was sure the soldiers would hear it. He risked a glance and saw them tall, strong, their faces cold. These were not hunters. They were executioners. Salira leaned close, whispering, her voice barely a breath. "If they see you, they will kill you on sight. And you?" He whispered back. Her eyes darkened. "They will take me back. And test me. They will know the truth sooner or later." Ethan clenched his jaw. His whole life had been about survival, about staying alive no matter what. But now, for the first time, survival wasn't just about him. It was about her too. and the life she carried. The patrol stopped only a few steps from their hiding place. One soldier knelt, pressing his hand against the soil. He spoke in a low, guttural language Ethan barely understood, but the meaning was clear. They had found tracks. Celira's grip on Ethan's wrist tightened. She gave him a sharp look, and he knew what it meant. Be ready to run. Suddenly, a cry split the air from deeper in the jungle. A horn blast, loud and piercing, echoed through the trees. The soldiers turned sharply and began moving toward the sound. Ethan let out the breath he had been holding. His body slumped against the vines, relief flooding through him. Celira, however, did not relax. "This will not end," she said quietly, her voice heavy. "They will keep searching until they find us. Until they find you." Ethan looked at her, his chest still rising and falling quickly. "Then what do we do?" Her eyes locked on his, filled with both anger and determination. "We run. We hide. But more than that, we fight. Not just for us, human. For the child, too. Do you understand?" Ethan stared back at her. Part of him wanted to shout, to tell her he had never asked for this, that he was not her savior or her partner. But another part of him, the part that had fought by her side against the beast, the part that had seen her shield him from danger only moments ago, knew there was no going back. "Yes," he said finally, his voice low but steady. "I understand." Celira's gaze softened just a little, though her jaw stayed firm. "Good, because from now on you are not running from me. You are running with me." The jungle seemed to close around them again, the cries of soldiers fading into the distance. But Ethan knew it was only temporary. This was no longer a chase. It was a war. Night fell quickly over the jungle, wrapping the world in thick shadows and silver light. Strange creatures called out in the distance, and the air grew heavy with mist. Ethan and Celira moved carefully through the darkness, each step sinking into the soft, wet ground. They had been walking for hours, staying low, keeping to the paths hidden by vines. Ethan's muscles ached, and every breath felt harder. Yet when he looked at Celira, he could see no sign of slowing down. She moved like she belonged to the forest itself, her glowing skin softly lighting the way. Finally, they reached a shallow cave behind a curtain of moss. Celira stopped and motioned for him to enter. "We stay here tonight," she said quietly. Ethan nodded, too tired to argue. He sank down against the stone wall, his back pressing into the cool rock. Celira sat across from him, silent for a long while. The only sound was the drip of water from the ceiling and the far-off roar of some unseen beast. Ethan's mind raced. The soldiers, the jungle, the child, it all felt too much. He had fought battles before, but never like this. Never for something so strange, so alive. Celira finally broke the silence. "You still think this is a mistake, don't you?" He looked up at her, startled by her tone. "I don't know what to think." Her gaze didn't waver. "You think of me as the enemy. Maybe I was. But the jungle doesn't care who is human or who is alien. It only cares who survives." Ethan frowned, rubbing a hand over his face. "I don't hate you, Celira. I didn't choose this. You didn't either. But we have to deal with it." Her expression softened for a moment, but then she looked away. "You say that as if you could walk away at any time. You cannot. The bond is already made." Ethan tilted his head. "Bond?" She met his eyes again. "Between us. Between our kinds, such a thing should not exist. And yet, it does. Our life forces mixed that night. That's why I knew something changed. When I woke the next morning, I could feel you inside my thoughts. Faint but real." Ethan's heart thudded in his chest. "You can feel what I think?" "Not all," she said softly. "Only when you're near. Your fear, your pain. Sometimes your anger. It comes like whispers. He stared at her, unsure whether to be amazed or terrified. The idea that she could sense even part of him felt impossible. But somehow he believed her. Salira looked down at her hands. "That is how I knew you were still running. I could feel it, the pull of your fear." Ethan's chest tightened. He had thought he was escaping her. In truth, she had never lost him. The silence between them grew again, heavy but not hostile. There was something strange in the air now, something unspoken. Ethan found himself watching her, the way the dim light caught her hair. The steady rise and fall of her chest, the calm strength in her posture. "Salira," he said quietly, "you said your clan would kill you if they knew. What will you do now?" Her eyes lifted to his. "What I must. Protect the child. And keep them from finding you." He frowned. "You're protecting me?" She nodded slowly. "You do not understand. If they catch you, they will take your body apart to study how this was possible. They will not see a man, they will see an experiment." Ethan felt a cold shiver run through him. "And you?" "They will call me unclean. I will not be allowed to live." For a moment, neither spoke. The truth was too hard to carry. The only sound was the faint crackle of the fire Ethan had started with dry leaves. Salira moved closer, her eyes catching the light. "You said once that humans are survivors," she whispered. "Now we must both become that." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we survive, together." Something shifted in her gaze, then less rage, more understanding. She studied him, as if seeing the man behind the chaos for the first time. "You speak as though it is simple." He gave a tired smile. "Nothing about this is simple. But running forever isn't living either." Before she could reply, the air outside changed. The soft chirping of the jungle went silent. Both of them froze. Salira stood instantly, her head turning toward the cave entrance. "They're near." Ethan grabbed his weapon, a sharpened piece of metal he had scavenged earlier. "How many?" "Too many," she said quietly. "They must have followed our trail." The glow of armor appeared faintly beyond the vines. Ethan's heart pounded. They had no time. Salira's hands began to glow again, her energy sparking blue and bright. "If they find us," she said, her voice steady, "they will not take me alive. And they will not take you at all." Ethan's eyes locked on hers. There was no fear in her face, only fierce determination. He had seen that look before in soldiers ready to die for something greater than themselves. "Then we fight," he said. Salira nodded once. "Together." As the vines parted and the first shadow stepped through, the air lit up with blue fire and human steel. The jungle roared to life again. The first soldier burst through the vines, his armor flashing blue under Salira's glow. Ethan barely had time to move before the energy spear lunged toward him. He ducked, feeling the heat of it pass above his head. Salira's hand swept through the air, and a surge of light exploded from her palm, slamming the soldier back into the trees. The forest filled with noise shouts, weapons, energy flashes. Ethan gritted his teeth and swung his blade against another attacker, the clang echoing through the cave mouth. His arm shook from the impact, but he refused to let go. Beside him, Salira fought like lightning, her every movement sharp and graceful, her fury burning brighter than ever. "Behind you!" she cried. Ethan spun just in time to block a strike. Sparks flew. He countered, shoving the soldier backward into the rocks. Blood ran down his arm, but he didn't stop. His mind was no longer thinking, it was instinct, pure and wild. He fought not just to survive, but to protect her. The ground trembled as a heavy figure appeared at the entrance, larger than the rest, the captain of the patrol. His armor gleamed dark gold, his eyes cold and full of hate. "Salira of the Azure clan," the captain said, his voice deep and cruel. "You dishonor us. Surrender and face judgment." Salira's voice rose above the chaos. I will not kneel before liars who kill their own in the name of purity." The captain raised his weapon, the air crackling. "Then you die with the human." He fired. A beam of burning light shot forward. Ethan pushed Celira aside, and the blast struck the cave wall, sending rocks raining down. Pain seared his side as debris slammed into him, but he kept moving. The captain charged through the dust, his massive form unstoppable. Celira shouted something in her language, her energy flaring around her like a storm. She leapt forward, her hand striking the captain's chest. The glow from her palm burned through his armor. He screamed, his voice echoing into the night. Ethan rushed beside her, driving his blade into the gap in the armor. The captain stumbled back, light leaking from the wound like liquid fire, and fell to his knees. The other soldiers hesitated. Celira turned to them, her eyes blazing. "Go back to your masters," she roared. "Tell them I will not hide. Tell them I will protect this child, even if I must burn the jungle to do it." The surviving soldiers retreated, dragging the wounded away. Silence returned, broken only by the crackling of fading energy in the air. Ethan dropped his weapon, breathing hard. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. He looked at Celira, her hair wild, her skin glowing with exhaustion and power. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then she took a slow step toward him. "You risked your life," she said quietly. "For me." He smiled faintly, though his face was pale. "You did the same." Her eyes softened, her anger melting into something else, something neither of them could name. "I told myself I hated you," she whispered. "But when I saw you fall, my heart stopped." Ethan leaned back against the cave wall, his body shaking from pain and adrenaline. "Guess that means we're even." Celira knelt beside him and pressed her glowing hand to his wound. Warmth spread through his side, dulling the pain. "You humans," she murmured, "so fragile. And yet, you never give up." He looked at her, studying the glow in her eyes. "And you aliens," he said softly, "so strong, but so full of heart." For the first time, Celira smiled a small, tired smile that made her look almost human. "Rest," she said. "The night is not safe, but for now we have peace." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the sounds of the jungle returning. Strange birds called in the distance, and the air smelled of rain. He could still feel her warmth beside him, steady and alive. But deep inside, he knew this was not over. The battle had only delayed what was coming. Celira's clan would not stop. They would come with more soldiers, more fury. And when they learned the truth, that their warrior carried a half-human child, they would bring war not only to the jungle, but to the stars. Celira sat near the cave's mouth, her hand resting on her stomach. The glow in her eyes dimmed to a soft blue. She stared into the darkness as if searching for something far beyond. Ethan watched her, his chest heavy. He knew that despite everything, the fights, the fear, the running, he could not leave her now. "Celira," he said softly, "if they come again, we'll fight together." She turned to him, her gaze calm but determined. "No, Ethan," she said quietly. "Next time we don't run. We stand." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, echoing through the forest like a warning. The storm was coming, and with it, the final reckoning. The morning after the storm, the jungle was silent. Mist clung to the trees, and the air smelled of wet soil and ashes. Ethan woke to find Celira standing at the cave's entrance, her glowing skin faint in the gray light. She looked exhausted but strong, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the clouds were breaking apart. "They'll come again," Ethan said quietly, sitting up. She nodded. "Yes, they will bring more soldiers, maybe warships. They will not stop until they erase this shame." He walked beside her. "Then we don't wait. We go to them first." She turned to him, surprised. "You would fight my own people?" He met her gaze firmly. "I'll fight for you. For the child. I won't let anyone take that away. Celira stared at him for a long moment. The words hit something deep inside her, something she didn't know she still had. She had hated him once. Now, she couldn't imagine facing what was ahead without him. By noon, they were moving again, climbing the ridge that overlooked the wide valley where her clan's base lay hidden. The sun broke through the mist, glinting off the giant silver towers that pierced the jungle below. Drones buzzed faintly in the air, scanning the forest. Ethan crouched beside her. You know this place better than I do. How do we get close? Celira's eyes flickered with thought. Through the water tunnels beneath the ridge. They lead straight to the heart of the base. He nodded. Then that's our way. The descent was dangerous. The rocks were slick from rain, and the tunnels were narrow, half-flooded, echoing with the distant hum of machinery. Ethan moved ahead, his knife ready, while Celira followed, her hand pressed lightly to her stomach. Finally, they reached a grate that opened into a chamber lit by pale blue light. Voices echoed. Guards, 2 of them. Ethan signaled to Celira. Without a word, they moved as one. He struck first, silent and quick, while she disarmed the second with a flash of energy. Within seconds, the room was theirs. They stepped forward. In the center of the chamber stood a massive device, a communication core, sending signals to the orbiting warships. Celira's eyes narrowed. This is how they track me. Destroy this, and they lose their eyes. Ethan grinned faintly. Then let's blind them. He moved toward the core, pulling the cables apart, while Celira charged her hands with energy. The moment her power hit the device, the chamber exploded in sparks. Lights flickered. Alarms wailed through the base. They know we're here, Ethan said. Then we finish this. The door burst open. Dozens of soldiers poured in. Celira stood tall, her body surrounded by a glowing blue aura that crackled through the air. She was no longer just a warrior, she was something far greater. Something fierce and divine. Stay behind me, she said, her voice like thunder. Ethan ignored the command and stepped beside her. Not this time. The battle erupted. Energy blasts lit the chamber in bursts of color. Ethan fought with raw speed and will, his blade flashing in the chaos. Celira's power surged, tearing through armor and steel alike. Together, they moved like one human and alien. Strength and fury joined. The soldiers began to falter, but then a heavy sound echoed through the walls. The floor trembled as the High Commander entered, a towering alien draped in crimson armor. His eyes like molten gold. So, he said coldly, the traitor hides with her human. Celira's hands trembled, not with fear but with rage. You call me traitor, but I am the one who carries life, not death. The commander raised his weapon, a massive spear pulsing with energy. That life will be erased. Ethan moved before she could stop him. He threw his body into the commander's strike. The weapon pierced his shoulder, knocking him to the ground. Pain shot through him, but he gritted his teeth and grabbed the weapon's shaft, holding it in place. Now, Celira. He shouted. She screamed his name and unleashed everything she had. The light that burst from her hands filled the chamber like a star. The walls cracked, the ground shook, and when it faded, the commander was gone, nothing left but scorched armor and silence. Celira fell to her knees beside Ethan. His breathing was shallow, his blood dark against the floor. She pressed her glowing hands to his wound, tears filling her eyes. Stay with me, she whispered. Please. He smiled faintly. You said we were bound, remember? Then you're not getting rid of me that easily. Her tears turned into laughter, soft and broken. You humans. You never stop fighting. He reached up weakly and touched her face. And you aliens. You never stop amazing me. Outside, the alarms stopped. The soldiers had fled. The jungle was quiet again. Above them, the storm had passed, and sunlight poured through the cracks in the ceiling. Salira looked toward it, her hand still holding Ethan's. "They will come again one day," she whispered. "But when they do, they will not find us hiding. They will find a new kind of life born from both worlds." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "Then let's make sure that life sees peace." Salira nodded, her eyes glowing bright. Together, they stepped out of the ruins into the light, the jungle opening before them like a promise, and as the wind whispered through the leaves, the story of the alien girl and the human began to spread, a story not of lust or war, but of survival, love, and the child who would change two worlds forever.